All right, today we're pulling back the curtain on the engine room of Google Cloud's CI/CD process, Cloudbuild. This is the magic that happens behind the scenes, the service that takes your code from a simple push in your repository and turns it into a live, running application.
We've all been there, right? You're a developer, you finish your feature, you type git push. But then what? What mysterious process kicks off to actually get that code out into the world on Google Cloud? Well, in this explainer, we're going to map out that exact journey, step by step.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics, what Cloudbuild actually is. Then we'll get into how you tell it what to do by configuring a pipeline. After that, we'll see how to make it all automatic with triggers, tackle the super important topic of security and secrets, and finally, look at when you might need some more advanced deployment tools.
Okay, first things first, let's get right to the heart of it. What is Cloudbuild? The best way to think about it is as the central engine that drives your entire build, test, and deployment process on Google Cloud.
Now, at its core, Cloudbuild isn't some single giant machine. It's much smarter than that. It runs your process as a series of individual, isolated steps. And here's the key part. Each of those steps runs in a brand new Docker container. This is a huge deal because it means your builds are always clean, predictable, and repeatable. It totally gets rid of that classic developer nightmare. Well, it worked on my machine.
So what does a typical flow look like? It's pretty straightforward. First, it fetches your source code from wherever it lives. Then it kicks off the build steps you've defined. You know, things like compiling your code, running all your tests, and building a container image. The outputs of that process, what we call artifacts, get pushed to a secure place like Artifact Registry. And then, as a final optional step, it can even take that artifact and deploy it directly to services like GKE or Cloud Run.
Okay, so we've got this powerful engine, but an engine is pretty useless without instructions, right? We need to give it a plan, and that's where the pipeline configuration, the blueprint for our build, comes into play.
An engine just sits there until you tell it what to do, so we need a clear, step-by-step plan for it to follow.
And that plan is a simple file called cloudbuild.yaml. This little text file is the single source of truth for your entire pipeline. It lives right there in your repository, right alongside your code, and it defines everything from start to finish.
So if you peek inside that YAML file, each step has a few really important fields. Name is the big one. It's basically specifying which tool you want to use for that step, in the form of a Docker image. Args are simply the commands you want that tool to run. You can also get pretty sophisticated, using ID and wait for to control the order of operations, or even run steps in parallel. And we'll come back to secret env a little later because it's absolutely crucial for security.
Now, the great news is you don't have to build all these tools yourself. Google provides a whole set of pre-made cloud builders for the most common jobs. Need to build a Docker image? There's a builder for that. Need to run a gcloud command or a kubectl apply? Yep, there are builders for those too. Honestly, these will cover probably 90% of what you'll ever need to do right out of the box.
Manually running builds is fine for testing, but the real power of CI/CD is automation. I mean, a great pipeline shouldn't need a human to push a button, it should just happen. And that is exactly the job of triggers.
Hey, remember our question from the very beginning? This is the answer. A trigger is the switch. It's the thing that connects your code repository to your Cloudbuild pipeline. When you push your code, the trigger fires, and the whole factory just hums to life.
And you've got tons of flexibility here. The most common trigger, of course, is a push to a specific branch, like your main branch, to deploy a new version. But you can also trigger on new version tags for your official releases, or even on pull requests, which is awesome for running automated tests before any code gets merged. Let's move on to a topic that is absolutely critical in the real world, making sure your pipeline has exactly the right permissions to do its job and nothing more, while keeping all of your secrets safe.
Oh man, if I had $1 for every time I've heard this, it's one of the most common and frustrating things in cloud development. The code runs perfectly for you, on your machine, but the automated build pipeline just fails with some weird permissions error. Why does this happen?
Here it is. This is your #1 takeaway for troubleshooting. If a build is failing in the cloud, it's almost always a permissions issue. Let me explain why.
See, when you run commands locally, you're using your own user account with all of its permissions. But Cloudbuild runs as a special, non-human user called a service account. And this account, by default, is locked down. It can't do very much. So if your build needs to push to Artifact Registry or deploy to Cloud Run, you have to go in and grant the Cloudbuild service account the specific IAM roles it needs to do those things. And what about things like API keys or database passwords?
The golden rule here is so simple. Never, ever put them directly in your cloudbuild.yaml file. Instead, you store them securely in Google's Secret Manager. Then you just grant the Cloudbuild service account permission to access those secrets, and it will inject them into your build securely at runtime.
So Cloudbuild is a fantastic engine for continuous integration. But when it comes to the really complex world of continuous delivery, well, sometimes you need more than just the engine. You might need a full-on navigation and traffic control system. Look, Cloudbuild can absolutely deploy your application, but if you need to manage a release across multiple environments, like from staging to a canary to production with approval gates and easy one-click rollbacks, you should really look at a more specialized service designed for that journey.
And that's exactly where Google Cloud Deploy comes in. While you could try to script some manual promotion steps in Cloudbuild, Cloud Deploy has all of this built in, right out of the box, specifically for GKE and Cloud Run. It's designed from the ground up to create those delivery pipelines, from dev to staging to prod, with all the safety features you'd expect.
Now, for even more advanced strategies, I'm talking about things like blue-green deployments where you instantly switch traffic between an old version and a new one. You turn to powerful open-source tools like Spinnaker or the classic Jenkins. And the recommended way to run these tools is right on top of GKE.
And here's another huge takeaway, especially if you're studying for a certification. If you see the phrase blue-green deployment on an exam, your brain should immediately go to Spinnaker or Jenkins. Cloudbuild and Cloud Deploy don't handle that specific pattern natively.
So, we've just automated the entire path from Git push all the way to a running application. We've freed up developers' time and dramatically cut down on human error. So the real question becomes, with all that manual work gone, what will you build next to truly add value for your users? Thanks for tuning in.
We hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe for more Apex Insights.